We are going to talk about the 6 reasons why you're having a hard time maintaining consistency in your sacred business. Welcome back to Prosperity Pep Talks. Most days I go live to share a short transmission on sacred leadership and how to create a business that acts as a sanctuary for your soul's calling. I come from a lineage of spiritual leaders and female entrepreneurs, and I've built my business as my devotional offering. And today we're going to be exploring the most common pattern I see among spiritual facilitators and coaches and change makers. And I've trained over 150 self-love coaches, ritual and ceremony guides, and soul retrieval practitioners. And I see this is like the biggest pattern that I see. It is somebody gets so excited to go in on their business and do their soul's work or do work that feels nourishing to their soul. And they do this training, the certification. They put about, maybe a month or 2 of work in, and they don't see the immediate results they want. And they feel burnt out by having put all of this time in the education process and then starting the implementation, but not seeing immediate results because they're comparing their day 1 to somebody else's day 100. And this is actually a chemical experience in the body. Dopamine hits the body, not even necessarily through the joyful experience of realizing your manifestations, but in the anticipation of it. Like when you have a goal, you see its possibility and its potential. I learned about this from a crafting expert because she was talking about why, and I am so guilty of this myself, why we accumulate crafting, for me, it's fabric, for sewing projects, why I accumulate fabric and then put off actually sewing the thing. And truth be told, I am a mom. I am running a business. Yes, there are real other priorities that take place, but it's such a dopamine hit to buy the fabric, even more so than wearing the finished garment. It's just wild. So I think, when I heard this, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the experience of entrepreneurship that I see among new emerging facilitators, or even facilitators who've been at it for a few years, but have just been really inconsistent. And there's so many things that can get in the way of you really claiming your fullest expression of leadership and going full in on your business. And I talk about this all the time. Anything you haven't healed within yourself will be magnified through the process of sharing your soul's work with the world, because it is like a beautiful initiation, healing on hyperspeed experience. It is absolutely worthwhile. And there's a challenge. And that's why it's so important to be in community, to have continued mentorship. That's why I created the Hearth, my temple for sacred leadership. But consistency is the number one thing that people identify within themselves. I just haven't been consistent enough in my business. That's why I'm really struggling to show up. I just haven't, I posted a few times about my thing and I just didn't get any bites. And so I got really beat down about it. And I don't know, I just started prioritizing other things. This is a story I see again and again. So I want to talk about the 6 reasons why the consistency piece is happening, because consistency isn't an internal experience. It's the byproduct of some layer within you, some pattern, some cycle within you that is not aligned with the vision that you have for the business that you want to create. So the first piece, and this is the deepest layer, is identity. And if your identity of who you are doesn't match the version of you who has manifested the vision for the business, then you're not going to see yourself as somebody who is showing up consistently, who's leading, who's selling, who's visible. And there's an internal conflict because you have the imposter syndrome, you have the fear of being seen, the hesitation within your own voice. And a lot of these fears, you not only cultivate the confidence through greater resourcing in terms of like mentorship and community and taking courses and learning new skills and strategies and all of that. That's all important, but a lot of it happens in the actual implementation. And that is why it's really helpful to have community and mentorship, because you have people who like cheer you on along the way so that you don't feel like you're doing the hard part alone, because that is sometimes the hardest part. So the first piece of why consistency might be the issue is identity, and the version of who you're going to be when you realize your manifestations and bring them into life versus who you are now. And so that's a really big piece. That's why we do the archetypal work in the hearth. The second piece is emotional safety and nervous system capacity. So consistency requires repetition, and repetition requires us to feel a certain level of like comfort level. You have probably heard the whole thing of like, you have to build a habit over, it like takes 21 days to build a habit, right? And that initial 21 days there's friction. And if anything happens to interrupt the habit, like if, some inconvenient thing happens in your life, or even more than inconvenient, like something really dramatic or challenging happens in your life, like it's over. And you've all experienced this before. I've experienced this before, where you're like, I'm going to commit to like doing this new thing for 21 days. And well, I think that there can be flexibility and fluidity within that. I don't think we have to be so dogmatic in our approach to cultivating a new skill set. That initial push is really important. And if we don't, alongside that initial push of cultivating a new habit and a new rhythm in our life, also cultivate a sense of safety within it, it's going to be even more challenging. So if selling feels activating, you're going to unconsciously forget to do it. If you feel really triggered by being seen and showing up on social media, your inconsistency will really be self-preservation and self-protection, and you're going to find reasons to not do it. If being seen as a business owner and sharing your offerings with the world is scary to you because of what people will think, you're going to avoid it and delay it. And that's okay, because it's totally understandable and normal, except that if you do want to manifest the vision that you have for your business, we have to create that sense of emotional and nervous system safety, which is why I think it's so beautiful and so helpful to look at your business as though it's a temple and a space for spiritual evolution. Immediately when you start relating to it differently and you create a spiritual relationship with the entity of your business, which is what we do in the course within the hearth, the craft, it feels so much safer. And when it feels safer because you have a more magical, nourishing spiritual relationship with it, it's easier. Okay, so we've gone over two pieces of why consistency might be the issue. The third reason is priorities. I've talked about this on two previous Prosperity Pep Talks. One of them was yesterday. And people often say that their business and their work is a priority, but their energy is elsewhere, and that's okay. But I want to encourage you that like you can still prioritize the things that matter the absolute most, right? The people that you care for, your well-being, and also prioritize your business, not through the busy work. Some of it is like prioritizing the wrong things. It's working harder and not smarter. It's prioritizing overthinking what your Instagram bio is, overthinking all of these little things, or even continually staying stuck in the receiving of information, but not the implementation piece, which is why it's so helpful to have mentorship and community for that accountability with implementation. But if we're not prioritizing it on a like weekly basis, I would say if you really want to grow your business, you need to be showing up and sharing your work with the world in a meaningful way 3 times a week at minimum. And I teach marketing in a specific way where I talk about direct and indirect marketing. I've been teaching it in this way for years, where you have direct marketing where you're actually talking to people, and you have indirect marketing where you're passively talking to people, and you need to be doing both. And most people get stuck in the passive marketing because it feels easier. And so we have to be really strategic and consistent and prioritize it as at least 3 times a week, if not like 5 or 6 times a week. And the amazing thing that I love about my business and being able to shape my business is that, the 5-day work week with the 2 days off is like very much part of the industrial capitalist structure. And thank goodness we have a weekend. We need more of a weekend. But when you love your business and you're not working and grinding 8 hours a day in it, it's so much easier to just weave it into your life. It's like, I don't have a day, like I rarely have a day where I don't work, but it's not because I have to grind 7 days a week. It's because I would rather work like 2 hours a day, 7 days a week or 6 days a week than 8 hours, 5 days a week. You know what I mean? Like I like to weave it into my life. Okay. So we've already done the identity, emotional safety, and priorities. The 4th reason why you might be struggling with consistency is a lack of clarity. And if you have unclear messaging, no clear strategy, vague offers, like it's just really hard. It's really hard to know what's happening next and who you're talking to and how you're going to get the income in order to create the infrastructure in your business needed for it to be a legitimate career. And that clarity is so important, not just like, what am I selling right now, but who am I selling to and what's my long-term plan? These are really important questions. It's more than just having like a business plan. It's having a rhythm. And I teach this in the way that one of the ways I love to teach this is actually in connection to the moon and the calendar, the wheel of the year. It's like there are different seasons within each moon cycle, like different phases of each moon cycle, different phases within the year that are better times for us to be doing different things in our businesses. And this is also true if you have a menstrual cycle. There are different times within your menstrual cycle where different things are going to be better for you in your business. I go over all of that in the Intuitive Entrepreneur bundle, and in the Self-Love Coach certification course a little bit as well, and in the Sacred Ceremony Guide and Ritual Training. So there's a lot of places where we can deepen into that, and it's something I can add into the Hearth if there's interest. It's something we could do in one of our monthly teachings. No, you know what? It is in the Hearth. It's going to be in the 2nd month of the course. The 5th reason is resource alignment. So sometimes inconsistency is simply a structural issue. And it's like just being able to have enough time carved out, not having enough systems or support to reduce the friction in making it a priority, right? Sometimes it's not just like, what do I need to do in my business, but what do I need to do to create the time to do the things I know I need to do in my business? And so that's part of why coaching is so helpful, because when you're coached, when you have mentorship, when you have reflection, some people can help you see your blind spots through asking you the most important questions that we forget to ask ourselves. The 6th reason is belief and trust in the outcome. And this breaks my heart because people decide to begin a business because some part of them believes that their success is possible, right? Otherwise you wouldn't even try. But then if you stop trying, it's because the doubt becomes louder than the trust. And that's so sad to me. You know, like sometimes it really is, you realize, you know what, this isn't for me. I would rather get a regular job. Fine, totally fine. But if you give up because you think that you're not good enough or because you're not seeing results quick enough, then it's because the doubt is louder than the trust. And that's really, I mean, that's really sad to me. I mean, essentially the doubt is like protecting you from further failure and disappointment, but like that creates inconsistency, and we need to turn the dial up on the self-trust, which is why the continued cultivation of resiliency, we do this in the hearth, why that is so valuable and important. This is, I just talked about this, the huntress in a prosperity pep talk. This is an archetype, an energetic quality that we cultivate within you. So when somebody says, I need to be more consistent, or I'm just not consistent enough, it's what's beneath that is an identity shift that needs to occur, emotional safety around the business actions, clearer priorities, stronger structure and support. We go over that piece with the weaver, one of the archetypes that we work with in the hearth, and a deeper belief in what you're building. Consistency is not an emotional inner experience. It is the result of aligning yourself across all of these layers. So if you want to deepen in any of these things, I've obviously mentioned how the hearth and some of my other offerings, but especially the hearth, meets these layers in different ways. I would invite you to go to hearthtemple.com. You can also send me a message, comment hearth, and it is my temple for sacred leadership. There's so much in this offering. It is so comprehensive, so robust. It's everything I think, and based on my experience as somebody who has worked with hundreds and hundreds of coaches and has built a 7-figure business. Like, it's everything that I'm pouring in, like everything that I think is needed for the most expansive, abundant, impactful, life-changing, world-changing, beautiful, magical business. And so I hope that you'll join me in the hearth, and that I'll see you soon for another Prosperity Pep Talk. Blessings to you.